of the Constitution.
Very well. Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker and honorable members of the National Assembly. I want to respond to the questions raised by Honorable Kamket but I'll start by giving background. Madam Speaker, allow me just to give a brief background on the fund. The Equalization Fund is established under Article 204 of our Constitution 2010, which requires that 0.5% or 0.5% of all revenue collected by the national government each year, calculated on the basis of the most recent audited revenue as approved by the National Assembly, be paid into the fund. Under Article 204(2), the national government may use the fund only to provide basic services in areas of water, roads, health facilities, and electricity to marginalized areas to the extent necessary to bring the quality of those services to the level generally enjoyed by the rest of the nation, so far as possible. So, Madam Speaker, the fund is currently operationalized by the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021. The regulations provided for establishment of the Equalization Fund Board, Secretariat, and County Technical Committees in beneficiary counties, Treasury to develop an appropriate instrument for the administration of the fund. Now let me speak to what is the scope of what I'm presenting today. One, this submission is made to facilitate the discussion whereby the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning has been scheduled to appear here today to address two questions, but I will start with this one by Honorable William Kamket. So I'm required to address three questions relating to the same topic and explain, give an explanation and status report of the Equalization Fund in terms of how it has been utilized, more specifically in Baringo County. So let me go straight into addressing the questions. Madam Speaker, I was required to report on the implementation status of the Equalization Fund for the years ending 30th June 2023 and 2024 in Baringo County, including the amounts allocated and disbursed and the status of the projects undertaken. The Equalization Fund Appropriation Act of 2023, Madam Speaker, appropriated 595,027,099 shillings for the provision of basic services, water, roads, health, and electricity to the 90 marginalized areas spread across 15 wards and 4 constituencies of Baringo County. The position is summarized in a table below, where I've indicated the amount appropriated. I've also given marginalized areas, wards, and constituencies covered in terms of project coverage. The project proposals submitted were valued at 592 million for 150 projects, but projects that were approved by the board were 140.
Hold on, CS. What is out of order, Kamket? Give Honorable Kamket the mic.
Madam Speaker, I did not want to interrupt the CS.
You have already interrupted.
I did not want to. But what is reading, I do not have. I thought parliamentary practice is that he should have provided the reply before. Now he's reading his own things. We do not know what he's referring to.
Honorable Kamket, we will organize for you to get a copy, but this response is for the House. So
they should have even given the response to the House, not for me.
It will be given, but in the meantime, let the CS just give the response. You'll be getting the copy. Sunkuli.
I'm just trying to say, if you listen to the answer, the Honorable CS is saying the table below. That presupposes a situation where we have a written document. so that we can follow the table. I'm sure he does not want to read the table because he believes that the answer has been supplied.
Clerk, can we get the response in circulation? Honorable Ruto. It's also because you're not using your card, Honorable Ruto. Yes. Locating you becomes a problem.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Actually, you really indicated what I wanted to say, so that in the interest of time, Cabinet Secretary to find time to be here today is not as always as it is, as you know how busy that ministry is. But would you guide officially that copies now be presented to us so that we're able to follow?
I already did, and let this be on the two questions, because I see the other question, without preempting, also has some breakdowns that would need for the members to follow as you read. But continue, CS, as we get the copies. How far are we, Clerk? At least give Honorable Kamket the first copy. Yeah, he already has a copy. Continue, Honorable CS.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and my apologies for this response getting to members late. But the table I was referring to, number one item is the amount that was appropriated by this House, Equalization Fund Appropriation Act of 2023. In Baringo County, it was 595,027,099 shillings. Then I have also indicated that the marginalized areas that were identified were 90, wards were 15, and constituencies covered were 4. And then project proposals that were submitted were valued at 592,869,000, covering 150 projects, and projects approved by the board were 144 out of the 150. Amount that was requisitioned and transferred to the county, that is the special purpose account of the county, is 174,145,208. In terms of fund absorption rate, as at 30th June 2026, for that financial year, was just 29%. Projects at 90 to 100% completion were 46 out of the 144, and projects below 50% completion were 88 in number. So that is the first response to the first question. Question number 2 was on plans by the National Treasury to utilize the Equalization Fund directly for the implementation of approved projects in line with Article 204, Sub-Article 3B of the Constitution, so as to eliminate administrative delays. So I was supposed to respond to that. So, Madam Speaker, this is my response. The fund was first operationalized through the guidelines on the administration of the Equalization Fund, which were published via a Gazette Notice number 1711 of 2015, which provided for direct implementation by national government ministries, departments, and agencies. The Council of Governors challenged the constitutionality of those guidelines through High Court petition number 272 of 2016. In its decision, which was arrived at in 2019, the High Court granted the prayers of the COG and declared that the 2015 guidelines were unconstitutional and directed the National Treasury to develop an appropriate instrument for the administration of the fund. Consequently, the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021 were developed to guide the utilization of the fund as conditional grants to county governments. Those are the guidelines that are in place today. So accordingly, the National Treasury will seek the advice of the Office of the Attorney General on a review of the 2019 High Court judgment and will submit a revised position for consideration once that advice is obtained. In the meantime, or in the interim, administrative delays are being addressed within the conditional grant framework notably through direct transfer of approved funds into county special purpose accounts under the July 2024 guidelines, which shortens the disbursement chain, together with continued streamlining of project appraisal, approval, and disbursement. Question number 3 was asking me plans by the ministry to strengthen coordination between the national government, county governments, and other implementing agencies to ensure effective delivery of equalization fund projects at the local level in line with the principles of cooperation under Article 6 of the Constitution. And this is my response, Madam Speaker. The PFM, Equalization Fund Administration Regulations 2021, establishes a multi-tied institutional framework for the oversight of the implementation of the fund at both the national and county levels. This framework is intended to ensure the effective management and implementation of the fund from the national level down to the community level. So at the national level oversight, Madam Speaker, 2 bodies provide strategic direction and administrative support for the fund. One is the Equalization Fund Advisory Board, which provides strategic leadership and oversight. And that board is chaired by a member appointed by the Cabinet Secretary. And we have even principal secretaries of National Treasury and the principal secretary in charge of devolution. And then we have other members. Then the second body is the Secretariat, which is led by the CEO. It provides day-to-day technical and operational support in the implementation of the fund. Now, at the county and community level, coordination consists of: one is the CTC, that is County Technical Committee, consisting of County Commissioner, who chairs it, the CEC members in charge of finance, Constituency Development Fund managers sit in that committee and chairperson, and a county assembly representative and heads of the implementing sectors. At the sub-county technical committee level, which assesses project feasibility and cost, monitoring implementation and prepares quarterly progress reports, and also strengthening coordination and accountability at the sub-county level. Here, it's being, then we have the Project Identification and Implementation Committee. It conducts public participation, this is at the lower level, identifies and prioritizes projects responsive to local needs, and provides oversight of implementation, embedding inclusivity and accountability at the community level. So measures that we have taken to strengthen coordination: A, we have operationalized a formal collaboration framework, institutionalized joint monitoring and verification, providing capacity building and technical support. We are also strengthening reporting, M&E and a central information system. E, we are deepening structured intergovernmental engagement and sustaining community participation and accountability. So, Madam Speaker, that is my response to the first question on the same topic by the Honorable Kamket. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, Honorable Kamket, just hold it a bit. Honorable members, I know you have a lot of follow-up questions, and I know there is a lot of interest on this matter. But allow us, so that we have better order, that we let the member for Samburu West ask her question, let the CS respond, then we'll take any follow-up question together. Member for Samburu West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of the Equalization Fund in terms of arrears and disbursements made as of the financial year 2026-2027, including a county-by-county breakdown of allocation and releases? Secondly, provide a report on the progress made in the implementation of the Equalization Fund since its inception, including an assessment of whether its implementation and actual disbursements to beneficiary counties are consistent with the constitutional objective of uplifting the most marginalized areas. And lastly, Madam Speaker, explain the rationale for changing the number of counties benefiting from the Equalization Fund from the initial 14 counties to the current 34 counties. Thank Thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, I will not go back again to the background because that I did while answering the other question by Honorable Kamket. Now, to the questions raised by the MP for Samburu West, the Honorable Naisula Lesuda. First, I was required to provide status of the equalization fund in terms of arrears and disbursement made as of the financial year 26-27, including a county-by-county breakdown of allocations and releases. Status of the transfer. Madam Speaker, cumulative receipts into the fund since its inception is 22,422,361,366 shillings, against cumulative constitutional entitlements of Kenya shillings 90,343,414,499. So in the table, and I hope now members have this answer or the response with them, the table that I've titled 2, entitlement, payment, and arrears to the equalization fund as at 30th June 2026. So if you look, the first column is a financial year. The base year is simply the year that we use to calculate how much was supposed to be transferred to the equalization fund. Then we have indicated the audited and approved revenues based on the law. And then equalization fund entitlement, I have listed that column, and you can see the total is 90 billion plus. Then amount in DORA has been indicated. If you check, you'll find the first 3 years there was nothing. Then payment into equalization fund is amounting to 39 billion 222 million 361,366. And then arrears is 51 billion 121 million 53,133. So let me now elaborate. Disbursements under the Equalization Fund Appropriation Act of 2018, 12.4 billion. Now, Madam Speaker, under the Equalization Fund Appropriation Act 2018, Parliament appropriated 11 billion 801,199,601 for the implementation of 360 projects across the 14 beneficiary counties identified under the first marginalization policy. So the first marginalization policy identified only 14 counties and 360 projects were proposed for implementation at a cost of 11 billion plus. The full appropriated amount was subsequently transferred by the National Treasury into the Equalization Fund account to facilitate project implementation. By the end of the financial year ended 30th June 2026, cumulative transfers from the Equalization Fund to the implementing ministries, departments, and agencies amounted to 10,976,662,326, representing a 95% of the approved allocation. And I have put there the table of each county, the 14 counties which actually benefited in the first formula, and then the allocated amount and the transferred amount. You can see there's just a small difference. Now, disbursement under Equalization Fund Appropriation Act of 2023. Now, this one occurred after the change in regulations. Madam Speaker, under the Equalization Fund Appropriation Act 2023, Parliament has appropriated 10,023,440,883 for the implementation of projects in the marginalized areas identified under the second marginalization policy. In accordance with Regulation 24 of the PFM Equalization Fund Administration Regulations of 2021, these resources are disbursed as conditional grants to beneficiary county governments through special purpose accounts established for the implementation of Equalization Fund projects. By the end of the financial year ended 30th June 2026, cumulative disbursements to beneficiary county governments amounted to 6,924,402,672. 13 counties had absorbed 90 to 100%, And these counties include Isiolo, Mandera, Marsabit, Murang'a, Homa Bay, Taita Taveta, Nandi, Kajiado, Meru, Samburu, Kisumu, Turkana, and Tharaka Nithi. Those counties, 13 of them, actually absorbed from 90 to 100% out of the 34 counties. However, 7 counties had recorded nil absorption, including Bomet, Busia, Elgeyo Marakwet, Garissa, Kericho, Lamu, and Trans Nzoia counties. The fund continues to provide close support to the 7 counties to enable them to progress the approved projects through the implementation and payment cycle, so that expenditure commences and absorption improves. I have given a table again, Madam Speaker, which I believe members are able to follow, and you can see the percentage of absorption, including the counties that I've mentioned, which have consumed 0, and those which have consumed 100%, like Isiolo and like Mandera, and also Murang'a, which have consumed 100%, and the others between 90 and 100. Now, I was also required, Madam Speaker, to provide a report on the progress made in the implementation of the Equalization Fund since its inception, including an assessment of whether its implementation and actual disbursements to beneficiary counties are consistent with the constitutional objective of uplifting the most marginalized areas. This is my response, Madam Speaker and honorable members. Under the first marginalization policy, as I reported earlier, 360 projects valued at 11.8 billion were approved for implementation across the 14 marginalized counties. As at 30th June 2026, 266 of these projects had been reported by the implementing MDAs as fully complete, and 31 projects substantially complete. But under the second marginalization policy, a cumulative total of 1,624 projects valued at approximately 9.94 billion had been approved for implementation as at 30th June 2026. Out of this, 1,072 projects reportedly fully complete. Projects under these 2 policies are spread across the sectors as envisaged in the Constitution. Disbursements under the 2 policies are restricted to basic services, which include water, roads, health facilities, and electricity. These are mentioned in the Constitution. Currently, cumulative transfers from the Equalization Fund to the implementing ministries, departments, and agencies and of the beneficiary county governments amounted to 17.2 billion shillings. I have again provided the table under the details under table number 5, allocation and budget by sector of Equalization Fund appropriation of 2018 and that one of 2023. Now, lastly, Madam Speaker, I was asked to give a rationale for changing the number of counties benefiting from the Equalization Fund from the initial 14 counties to the current 34 counties. Madam Speaker, Article 216(4) of the Constitution of Kenya mandates the Commission on Revenue Allocation, CRA, to determine, publish, and regularly review a policy in which it sets out the criteria by which to identify the marginalized areas for purposes of the Equalization Fund. First marginalization policy used the perception survey, a report on historical injustice, and a county development index to identify 14 counties. The second policy deviated from the first policy by using a sublocation as a unit of analysis instead of a county and identified 34 counties. So the CRA will provide more information regarding the criteria for identifying marginalized areas as per Article 216(4) of the Constitution. And I believe this formula is usually submitted to the National Assembly. So in conclusion, Madam Speaker, the National Treasury appreciates this Honorable House and is ready always to offer all the necessary information and clarification as is required. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and that's my submission.
Very well. Honorable members, allow me to first give Honorable Kamket for any clarification or follow-up question. Then we'll go to Honorable Naisula. Honorable Kamket, Honorable CS, kindly take note of the follow-up questions.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary, in his response, stated, and I quote, that the National Treasury will seek advice of the Office of the Attorney General on a review of the 2019 High Court judgment and will submit a revised position for consideration once that advice is obtained. Honorable Speaker, I take it that I want to ask the CS, is it his position, therefore, that he is not satisfied with the judgment of the court? And given what is going on the ground, why has it taken him so long to review or to get that advice in order, therefore, to review the regulations and consider reverting to the old guidelines or even guidelines that allow the CS to directly utilize the funds given the amount of theft that is happening at the county level? Secondly, Madam Speaker, we are talking here politely about administrative delays. But indeed, what we are talking about is we have situations like, for example, in Baringo, we have intra-county marginalization. There is a deliberate delay by the county government, led by the county governor and his CECs, not to implement this fund. And that is why you'll find it is at 29%. Baringo, Madam Speaker, Tiati constituency has the highest allocation of equalization fund. It's the most marginalized constituency in Kenya. And it's a shame that the county government is not able to implement this fund to help the people of that constituency. So I think those clarifications is what I need for now. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Member for Samburu West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, CS, for your response. Even though I feel like the responses were just lifted from somewhere, they are very book smart. But I need answers, especially from where you sit as the Cabinet Secretary, who then supervises and also releases these funds on issues of equalization fund, Madam Speaker. One is that there is an arrears of 75.2% of the total entitlement from when we started implementing the equalization fund. That is over 67 billion. I would like to know from the Cabinet Secretary what plans are there to ensure that these funds, because every other financial year will continue accumulating more arrears, while there was a reason why this equalization fund was initially captured in our constitution, Madam Speaker. So I would like to know what plans are there to see that these arrears are cleared in the soonest time possible. Secondly, I have listened to the Cabinet Secretary, and I remember also in this House, in the second policy, on why we moved from 14 counties to 34 counties. I just want to know the view of the Cabinet Secretary, because the drafters of this constitution, and I know that CRA is an independent commission, but the CS would have an input in just telling us there was a reason why the drafters of this constitution thought of the 14 counties. Now we are spreading thin to 34 counties, Madam Speaker. And then we're even going further towards, while then the whole issue, my own thinking, even as we think, I think of the third policy, I'm not too sure when it's supposed to come, and I think the CS should really be keen on it as well. We are looking at counties that have been marginalized for so many years. A county where from corner 1 to corner 2 has no tarmac. A county where water is scarce from corner 1 to corner 2. We cannot have pockets of a county which is developed but only a ward. Then we include it to spread thin this money, Madam Speaker. Then lastly, on the issue of, on genuinely whether where you sit as a cabinet secretary, you feel these funds are meeting, now forget about the paper response. Tell us as a house, forget about the reports you get from different sectors telling you we've implemented these projects. Implementations of project is one thing, but is it meeting what it was intended to do? When you find a county doing a road of 7 million with equalization fund, 10 million, 15 million, how are we going to catch up with the rest of the country, Madam Speaker? So genuinely just tell us, not that the road is complete, but is it meeting the spirit of why we have equalization fund in the first place? Or we will continue to marginalize ourselves as we implement these projects. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
I've indulged the two because they were the original questioners. And I know there's a lot of joyriders, but CS, I would like you to first respond to that. If there will be any other follow-up question, then we'll go to the question. Respond to the two first.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me respond to two questions each from the questioners, those who raised the questions, beginning with Honorable Kamket. And Honorable Kamket asked me specifically that when I've indicated that we are seeking advice from the Attorney General on whether to seek a review of the judgment or not, and whether this is an indication that I was not satisfied with the judgment. Let me put it this way. First, this judgment, we lost out in the appeal because we did not appeal it. Therefore, what we can do is just to seek a review. I'm told by lawyers that that is permitted and allowable. As to whether I agree with the judgment or not, my position, and that this is a position of a non-lawyer, is that the Constitution speaks to implementation either directly or conditionally, as conditional grant. So in my view, I think my position would have been that the judge should have considered that the national government also had the constitutional mandate to administer, or rather implement projects directly. But I don't want to question the wisdom of the judgment or try to appear like I am questioning the judgment. That is why I have sought an opinion from the Attorney General on how to progress. I am seeking, actually I have not even sought the opinion. Let me be very categorical about it, very clear. But we are going to seek that advice. In terms of intra-county marginalization, I can't agree more. As a matter of fact, the whole question of devolution, we need to start asking ourselves whether we are devolving resources sufficiently enough to the grassroots. Because we assumed that once we devolve resources from the center, the national government to the counties, that sanity will prevail at that local level. But at times, again, you find some regions, some areas within the county being marginalized for whatever reason, whether clan or voting demographics. So I agree that that needs to be looked into. And I don't really understand when Honorable Kamket says that there is a deliberate delay and probably bordering on sabotage of projects. It is my belief and understanding that these projects are actually generated by the same government, the same county government. They are the ones which their projects come through Project Identification and Implementation Committee, which then is cascaded to the sub-county and the rest and the rest. So I don't see why the counties would again fail to implement the projects they have participated and facilitated identification. But I would want to mention that in the event of inefficiencies, like it is in Baringo County, then we can suspend. The law allows us to suspend the funding of those projects. So that we can take action on if it is reported to us and we are certain that there is inefficiency. On the two questions by my sister Lesuda, on our plans that I have to eliminate the accumulation of arrears, this fund has had challenges from the beginning. By the way, the first financial year, which should have seen this fund having resources in it, was from 2010-2011 financial year, because immediately the constitution was passed, this fund was not suspended. But because there was no legal framework and a lot of challenges from the beginning, it took about 3 financial years, if not more, before the fund was put into effect. And that has led to challenges on this fund. And there have been issues with these formulas, and now we have accumulated so much arrears. And the other problem, and I'm not passing judgment on this house, but we have also noticed that any time when we have supplementary budget revisions, even without being proposed from the National Treasury, the National Assembly is usually very quick in removing equalization fund. So I would also appeal to this honorable house that please in future consider ring fencing this any allocation already provided in equalization fund so that it doesn't again suffer the fate that it has suffered for over the years. So that is another reason why we have had arrears into this fund. Finally, what is my personal view on increasing the number of counties from 14 to 34? Honorable Speaker, Honorable Lesuda, through the Speaker, let me make it very clear that I was in this parliament when we passed the 2010 Constitution. I am very conversant and aware of why we went this route of creating a specific fund to target areas that have historically been marginalized. Actually, we were very clear in 2010 on what we meant by marginalization. It was not pockets of marginalization across the country. I will tell you that for a fact. And by the way, I come from a region which is also considered marginalized because it is a Yemen. You remember just the other day, Madam Speaker, some individuals, some characters across here went to my place and they called us, we are living in Yemen. I believe Yemen is, they use that word to clearly state that that area is marginalized, which is true. But the level of marginalization in Suba, South, or Homa Bay, which is also historical, cannot be compared, for example, to Mandera, or Wajir, or Isiolo, or Masabi. So for Homa Bay, where I come from, which is also marginalized, and is Yemen, that marginalization cannot be compared to these other areas. So in my view, I think it was a mistake by Commission on Revenue Allocation to increase the number of counties from 14 to 34. That is my honest opinion, and I'm not saying it for the first time. I have said it before, even when I was launching a report by Equalization Fund. I said we must reconsider this second policy. It is now making us lose foresight and focus on why Equalization Fund was embedded in our Constitution. We can use other resources which are devolved to the counties to make those regions which have not been brought to where they should be. But for marginalization, equalization, let us confine it to the historically marginalized counties like Samburu, like Baringo, like Turkana, like Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Marsabit, and also Garissa. Those regions, no one can deny that those regions have historically been marginalized in this country. So that is my response to that question, and I hope those who are involved in decision making for the third policy are listening to this debate And my position as Cabinet Secretary is very clear on that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, there is a lot of hands going up. Allow me to indulge Honorable Kamket. What is out of order?
Madam Speaker, I did not want the, thank you so much for indulging me. I did not want the Cabinet Secretary to get away with the final part of his answer, because the first policy, Honorable Speaker, left Tiati out of the group of marginalized areas. So when he says that he left Baringo and Tiati for that matter, thank you very much, Honorable Maklap, left Baringo out. And now, when the second policy is done, with the current, it became clear that actually the most marginalized constituency in Kenya is Tiati. So if the first policy did not identify that, how wrong is the second policy? So I think, Honorable Speaker, in as much as, marginalization is not a birthright of anyone. So those who are in the first policy must not be mean to the extent of denying others who benefited through the second policy.
Okay, honorable members.
So I think the Cabinet Secretary should not go that route. I think the Commission on Revenue Allocation did the right thing by going to the sub-location level in order to get the right report.
You have made your point.
Of marginalization.
Honorable Kamket and members, we have had this debate not once on this floor. Some of you were proponents of the expansion of the first policy. Some of you have not supported that expansion, but the CS was answering the question by Honorable Naisula if he personally, in fact it was a personal question, if he personally supports, and he has given his view, and he said it's a personal view, but the responsibility goes to the CRA. So, honorable members, I would want us to, yes, Honorable Naisula, there's a question you did not answer from Honorable Naisula, then I'll open it up.
Thanks, I'll be very brief. The last question was about the impact of the project, because you've stated that the projects were complete, but it almost ties to the second question in terms of the impact of those projects that are being implemented, especially at the county level, whether you feel they meet the
In fact, CS, Naisula's first take was, do you personally feel the spirit of what the equalization fund was to achieve? Has it achieved? Yes, that was the question.
Madam Speaker, to be honest with ourselves, this fund has not achieved its intended objective. It has not, because really, if you look at the way we have spread it too thin, and that's why I still go back to my position. Yes, it could be true that probably we left one county or so with the first formula, and that can be considered. But expanding it to 34 and spreading it across the country, where now you say that almost every county has some pockets of marginalization, is missing the original intention of this equalization fund. Remember, when we were debating, and I was in this house, Madam Speaker, I remember some of us argued that even Nairobi, there are areas which are marginalized. So we are at times confusing poverty with marginalization. The two are not the same. There is poverty and there is marginalization, and we can use different strategies to address both of them. There is urban poor, there is rural poor, and then we have marginalized areas. And marginalized areas, you don't need rocket science to really know an area that is marginalized. You just drive there or make a point of visiting. And Madam Speaker, you will see real marginalization. And I'm happy that the Constitution even identified what is meant by marginalization: roads, health facilities, education, water, electricity. Clearly, an area which is marginalized in those bases, you can easily determine. So, but as to whether this fund has met its objective as a question by Lesuda, largely not. And to some extent, yes, some of the projects have made a whole lot of difference in people's lives in some of these areas. And I have visited a few areas and I've seen what the fund has done. But bringing the country to near equality or equalization as we had intended, because a country that is so divided in terms of, or so unequal, is a country that is very difficult to govern. Sometimes we just laugh about some of these things and even put them on social media and compare that, look how constituency Honorable Makalap is dusty, and you put a road leading to your bedroom which is so smooth, yet you know very well that even Makalap's taxes are on your road. And even if it was not his taxes, he's paying debt that was taken by some leaders who come from your village, who made sure that you have roads, and because his area has not produced a leader, then they are in dusty and you want to laugh at them. It is something that can bring civil unrest. It can create problem in the society. Part of what we saw in 2007, Madam Speaker, was the thinking in the people's minds that they are being marginalized. And that is why we almost lost our country. So in my view, if you ask me as a cabinet secretary, and I'm not speaking as someone who is coming from one corner of this country, because I know part of this money has gone even to Super South to address some marginalization in some sub-locations there. But I am not cabinet secretary for Super South. I am speaking about Kenya, and I know for sure there are areas which are so marginalized that they need this money more than other areas. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. Honorable members, I know there is a lot of interest. If we keep the questions brief and precise, very many of us will speak. Honorable member for Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, CS. CS, under Table 4 of your submission, Elgeyo Marakwet County, as of the end of this August, has received 0 allocation. Would you give us the reason that informs that? Number 2, CS, since the Constitution was passed, we've never had an equalization fund. The operational laws are, we have only subsidiary legislations and budget laws. There is no stand-alone substantive legislation on equalization fund. Do you think, as a CS for finance, that if we enact a substantive legislation on equalization fund, do you think we will unlock the challenges that we have, especially on the definition of terms like pockets of marginalization, which in my opinion was never envisaged by the Constitution? Finally, under the current framework, the regulation, operating regulation, we have under Regulation 8G, expressly mandates the Equalization Fund Advisory Board to establish a framework for collaboration between the national and county governments. But CS, why has this particular framework not been established, which provides for collaboration between the national and county governments so as to give effect to Article 6.2 of the Constitution? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Looking at Table 4, I'm intrigued to understand, probably the Cabinet Secretary can explain why Garissa has had 0 absorption and why Busia, with a small pocket in Budalangi, has had 0 absorption. Finally, Honorable Speaker, you need to guide the Cabinet Secretary that members of Parliament are not some elements from here. We are members of Parliament. If he got iked because we exposed the hypocrisy in Homa Bay, we can do it outside there in a public rally. Thank you.
Member for Moyale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
For members, I'm really trying to follow. If you want to speak on this specifically, do the intervention.
Madam Speaker, this is a very, very important debate. Cannot be closed.
And it's not a debate, honorable members, so it's follow-up questions.
Okay.
Be advised.
My question is, if you look at the team that comprises at the county level, the county commissioner is the chair. But when it comes to implementation of the project at the county, it's purely done by the county government. Yet, the decision made is all by provincial administrations and other members. How come the implementation of this thing, especially considering things like education, things like energy, is implemented by the county, and yet those are not devolved functions? To the extent that the projects which we proposed in 2023, 2024, no, 2023, 2022, 2023, have not been implemented up to now because the county government, I will be specific of Marsabit, wants to convert the money from transformers into construction, and therefore making us lose direction. Why did you people allow this kind of thing to happen, that the money will be implemented, the function will be implemented by the county government, yet it's not a county function? Thank you.
Very well, Chakapong.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to begin, first of all, by commending the CS for the timely disbursement of CDF. Then now, back to this. Honorable Speaker, the response by the CS looks very good on paper. But in reality, and those of us from the ground there, things are not as good as it's being presented here. Now, in page 7 of this presentation, we have committees: Project Identification Implementation Committee, Sub-County Technical Committee, and the County Technical Committees. The reality is that most of these projects are done by the county and not the project identification committees. So it now therefore turns out to be a county government program. And when you look at the County Technical Committee, Honorable Speaker, where the county commissioner is the chair and the CEC Finance is a member, then it goes ahead to say that the county assembly representative and heads of implementing sectors. So you find that within that meeting or that committee, you have a lot of chief officers, a lot of CECs, and many, then it turns out to be a county government issue. Then, Honorable Chair, how will the CS address duplication of resources in projects? Because what the counties are doing is that they are allocating equalization fund resources. At the same time, on top of that, they also allocate county government funds. Then one of the funds does the work, then the other one is being embezzled or is eaten by those people, if we can say that. Then now, again, there's something we've been dealing with, the relationship between equalization fund and the county governors. Is this their fund? Is this their fund? And then, so that question of duplication and whether the procurement of identification and procurement of projects of equalization fund can be brought to the national the national government. That would be a bit better. And then finally, Honorable Chair, projects that were in the first marginalized, that benefited in the first marginalization policy and have not been completed, what becomes of them? They have taken many years, many have stalled, and nothing is happening. So what becomes of that? I have seen in West Pokot here that the absorption rate is 87%. And you find that when you go to look at the projects that have been funded through Equalization Fund, resources have been allocated. There is a road in my constituency that was allocated 26 million. They only did an open of 2 kilometers, and they said the money is finished. What happened? Thank you.
Honorable CS, I hope you're noting the questions. I know some will overlap. The specific issues you can note for each county. Kainan?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's unfortunate, especially for those of us who have been part and parcel of the making or the inclusion of this particular article in the Constitution, just like my friend, the Honorable CS. And I'm sure you have also been in that time you were also in this Parliament. Madam Speaker, we need to understand the history of the inclusion of this particular clause in the August 2010 Constitution. I remember you were a nominated member of Parliament then. At that particular time, we had three contending groups. One group wanted a pure presidential system. The other group wanted a pure parliamentary system. There emerged a third group who wanted devolution and resource allocation. And when we converged in Naivasha, towards the end, when there was almost near disagreement, at the wee hours of the night, we sat down and said, look, let there be a middle ground. The middle ground for those who wanted a pure presidential system and those who wanted a pure parliamentary system. And the third group, we said, we must be given devolution and equalization fund. And equalization fund, madam, and all of us have gone to school, was on the basis of the Marshall Plan of 1948. That was enacted, but it was actually promoted by the Americans to support those allies who have been vanquished at the end of the Second World War. This is the question for my good friend. CS, I must go on record and say you are one of the best ministers, finance ministers this country has ever had, because really, I took a bit of time to analyze what they have done for the people of Kenya. Truly, for a person like me, who has been here for quite some time, who has interacted with many different CSs or ministers for finance, that holistic approach to look at the face of Kenya is what we lacked. Today, two of the questions that I wanted to ask, one you have answered affirmatively. Does the current equalization fund, this paper, reflect the thinking or the framers of the current constitution? The answer is a big no. That is the first thing. The second question is, what is your role as the man charged with protecting the taxpayers' money? You need to stop this. The third question, Madam Speaker, and I know you will empathize. We have had sessional paper number 10 of 1965, and one of the issues that this particular clause was meant to cure was to deal with the historical and constitutional marginalization certain regions have been subjected to. Madam Speaker, my question is this, and I'm sure I am competent enough to answer my question.
No, the problem, Honorable Kainan, is that if we make it a debate, then everyone will take 10 minutes.
This is the question. This is the question. Can the letter and the spirit of the current constitution be altered by the commission because of pressure by the political class? And that is exactly what policy, this second policy actually did. If that is the case, are we duty bound as members of parliament to continue funding equalization fund? The answer is, and I'm on record here, there is no iota of even one project of equalization in Wajir, and I want to be challenged. To that extent, I want to declare equalization as dead. Dead completely. Don't waste your money. It's a cash cow for governors. It's a cash cow for governors. Let's call a spade a spade. We cannot spend billions just to cover for the ills of a clique. So I want to urge you, and I will go on record.
Order, members.
Of course, you are competent enough to inform me.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, you know, I have seen the way Honorable Kainan has gotten very emotional on this subject, and is having a very animated debate because of the pain that the people have suffered in many counties because of the failure of this equalization fund. And probably, Honorable Speaker, I was suggesting that not to just try and slow down Honorable Kainan, to agree with him, first of all, that indeed what has made many counties and many areas that are marginalized not have access to projects that benefit the people is probably a constitutional problem, and he put it very well. But also an issue that the National Treasury can help with in ensuring that they define what kind of projects can and should be funded through the equalization fund. and find means and ways of stopping duplication. Because why Honorable Kenan is saying it has become a cash cow, because a governor identifies that they will fund the construction of a borehole in a certain locality using the equalization fund, then they equally budget the same through their shareable revenue. And that is where the stealing comes from, because there is no accountability. Probably, maybe just to ask Honorable Kenan as he concludes, because this matter is very emotive. You can see the way he was animated in his discussion. And we also have some other business, especially very important bills that are coming for committee of the whole house. We try wind up now to conclude this matter.
He's a very crafty, and you see, he has achieved what he wanted to achieve. But let me conclude by saying this, and thank you for the time. You see, Madam Speaker, and I'm glad that you have been around even when we did this. My take, and I want the minister to know this, now that you realize both the letter and the spirit of the inclusion of Article 204 in the current constitution have been deliberately disregarded. Taken into account that the second policy, completely disregards the very provision. Considering that the number of counties to benefit this were increased from 14 to 34. Considering that all this was done maliciously, capriciously, and in a very offensive manner both to those who are to benefit and the architect of the current constitution, will you be kind enough to consider and say, look, notwithstanding all other interpretations, that it is no longer viable and wise to continue funding this until the stakeholders come together and come up with an acceptable, implementable, fair procedure that will take into account the very provision of Article 204. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the time.
Honorable members, I know, as has been said, that this issue is very emotive, but CS, the issues that are being raised are very similar. The issue of overlap of mandates, the issue of resting, including issues of procurement to the county, and the issue of accountability. But honorable members, I also don't want us to just load it to the CS, because you also have a responsibility. As members of this house, you have the powers of appropriation. You cannot tell the CS not to implement when you've already given money. So honorable members, it is a shared responsibility. So allow us to allow the CS to respond. If there will be something that is totally not answered, then we will follow it up. But I would hope that Honorable CS, with these responses on these major broad issues.
Madam Speaker, I completely agree with you, because I think the issues are basically common. And starting with why some counties have implemented zero, is because is not because there's no allocation. You can see there is allocation, but either they have not even prepared proposals or they have not implemented anything. So we must just call it for what it is, that generally there are challenges around that space. In terms of whether we need standalone law, my view is no. Because Public Finance Management Act is very detailed. By the way, before we came up with the Public Finance Management Act after the Constitution was enacted, we had several laws, so many of them handling or dealing with public finance, and they were causing confusion, some of them contradicting each other. So what we decided to do was to collapse all the public finance management laws into one. That's why we have Public Finance Management Act. And we can generate regulations out of it, including this one, which would now give details. So if there is insufficiency or there is an inadequacy in the regulations, we can work on the regulations. Whether there is collaboration between counties, yes, the answer is actually we have a lot of collaboration, and you find even in the committees that I mentioned, there are national government officials. And
who are you informing, Honorable Kamket? We can let the CS to finish, then we... Yes, let the CS finish. Just let the CS finish, because he has quite some...
Thank you. Thank you. So there is collaboration. You look at the committees, the county governments and the national governments are supposed to be working together. As to whether they are effective and efficient, those committees, that is another question. The Honorable Oundo was asking why Garissa has received zero. It's not that we have not made transfers to Garissa. It is about implementation. And we have mentioned here a number of reasons why some counties have failed to implement. Whether I referred to some members here as characters, I don't think I did so. I talked about some characters whom I saw moving around. I don't know whether they were members of parliament, but there were some characters. And as to whether there is any dishonesty, I don't think there is any dishonesty. We have never shied away from saying that Homa Bay has all along been marginalized. From 1963. Actually, we probably got our independence in 2023 when Ruto became president. That is when, actually, I will tell you, I've been in this parliament from 2007 for 15 years, and a road that connects two counties passing through my constituency, all the way from Beta, Sindo, Magunga to Suri, has been awarded severally. Contractors go on site without even doing an inch of tarmac road. Now, if President Ruto has done 28 kilometers of that road and it is tarmac, and then you tell me that it is dishonest, it cannot be. And you can entertain yourself, you can enjoy yourself. But again, if you are visiting an area with area MP, and you take 7 hours before you are allowed to access, an MP to access his constituency, you should know you are moving around with the wrong person. How can an area MP be blocked from reaching his constituency for 7 hours, Madam Speaker?
Honorable Cabinet Secretary.
For 7 hours.
Order.
By his constituents.
Honorable.
And then you still think that that is someone who can help you.
Honorable CS, I would beseech you, don't get to the politics.
No, I was actually talking about marginalization.
Yeah.
Madam,
come back to marginalization.
And you know, marginalization, when people who have been marginalized for years feel that they're now being considered and you still want to bring them confusion, they get very angry because they have really suffered for years and without seeing any development. Now, when they start seeing development, then you start bringing issues to them. They will block you even with their hands because they are not happy. So that is not really politics, Madam Speaker. It's actually the reality. But let me respond to other issues. Yeah, let me move to the other question. Decisions made by national government, yet implementation is by the counties. As a matter of fact, initially, I stated in my initial response, we started implementing the projects directly. But then, based on the decision of 2019 by the High Court, which threw us back now that the county government must implement equalization fund projects. Now we are to look for a way of obeying and respecting the court order. But I have indicated, Madam Speaker, that I am going to ask for the Attorney General to seek a review of this so that we can have a better implementation of these projects. And implementing functions which are not county functions, again, the Constitution speaks to the county functions, but at the same time, the same Constitution speaks to areas where you can apply the funds, which includes education and is not restricting it to early childhood education. So then, if money is sent as conditional grant, it can be applied even in high school education, which again is a function of national government. But the law allows us, the county government and national government, to concur and agree on implementation and collaborate. If there is a will, there is always there will be a way. But I think the bottom line, the gist of this issue, the concern that we have is the administration of this fund, is the management, the implementation of projects. I think it is something that my ministry has taken up and we are looking at. Honorable Loyangapuo, I think you know Lochakapuo, you know I'm used to Loyangapuo, the presidential candidate. Maybe I'm wishing you to be one soon. Lochakapuo, in terms of
He's
NGCDF,
called the Honorable
thank you.
Order, the Honorable Lochakapong,
Lochakapong.
or Lochaks, if you wish.
So if I'm allowed, I can abbreviate it as Lochaks. So Honorable Lochaks, in terms of NGCDF, yes, it has been the policy now of the National Treasury that we will be releasing NGCDF as a checkoff. Every month, we will be releasing a portion of CDF funds based on the budget so that by the end of the financial year, we complete, because we know the value and the contribution that NGCDF has to our economic development in terms of spurring rural economy and growth. So now, up to now, we have released up to the month of August, so I don't have a date. NGAF, we will not be releasing monthly. NGAF, we will be releasing in full. So I will tell you, in the next 2 weeks or so, you will have your full allocation. So that is that. Then on, the counties don't generate projects. Actually, the projects come from the project identification and implementation committees. On duplication of projects or resources on projects, that is possible. You know, we live in this country. And sometimes even some of the roads that Kera does, again, you find counties or vice versa reporting on the same. It is what one could just call theft of public funds. And these are cases that we should identify and deal with. They are unacceptable, whichever way. The relationship between governors and equalization fund, the relationship should be just to the extent that the fund is helping them solve or provide services to their people. It should not be beyond that. And then procurement, there is no way procurement can come back to the national government if we don't sort out the question of the High Court decision of 2019. Honorable Kainan, I can't agree more. We must look at the holistic approach to this. And as to whether I can stop the theft of public funds, we can work on this together. And this House is, again, has a responsibility to oversight. But again, National Treasury, I have a responsibility. And discontinuing the fund is a bit difficult because it's a constitutional provision. And I'm actually required by law to make that provision. So it may be difficult. I don't have a discretion. I don't have that space to you exercise discretion on supplying this or making provision for this fund. Of course, the leader of majority defining what projects that can be funded. We actually have a checklist which we issue to counties on what projects can be included in the equalization fund funding. And we usually follow that checklist. That is why you see there are proposals and then the approvals. The approvals are usually less than what have been proposed. But, Mr. Speaker, as I go back to sit, I want to state that this fund is still facing a lot of challenges, which we are working to resolve, some of which may require major decisions like how do we implement the projects? Should it continue to be implemented at the counties or we do it directly as national government? Thank you.
Honorable members, this is spent. I think you've had your time on this. So then order. Don't Kenan, you don't do that to me, you know that very well. Yeah. So we'll do order. Don't Kamket, take your seat. We'll do the following. Each of you, 1 minute. You have order. 1 minute each of you. The minister will have only 2 minutes to respond to them. Then he will leave. Don't Maklap, 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to do a value addition. Number one, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister for Finance, if you want this thing to succeed for the time being before it lapses, this fund lapses in 2031. It is left with 4.5 years.
by the Constitution. So, Mr. Speaker, if for now going forward, CS National Treasury, we can be, since this house is the one that is appropriating the money to a coalition fund, and it means therefore that this house must oversight this fund. So for us moving forward is, let us get the projects so that when we pass a budget, we pass an itemized budget, including projects of equalization fund, which has a threshold of what is supposed to be funded. A threshold for what is supposed to be funded.
Allow him 30 seconds.
There is a problem that it needs the cabinet secretary. Why the county governors? I have sat in that committee in the county. The problem is the county governors and their CEC say this fund has been given to us without operationalization or administration funds. Therefore, thank you.
Honorable Speaker, the elephant in the room, this is for the Cabinet Secretary, the elephant in the room, Honorable Cabinet Secretary, is the procuring role, the procurement role. Unless you address that matter of procurement, this fund will continue to be wasted. And I do not think, the Honorable Speaker, that the regulations alone, the root of a stand-alone law might be the cure to this problem. And you have been identified, you are an expert, Cabinet Secretary. You have been identified as an expert. Please, you have listened to the cries of members. Please solve the problem of procurement. Remove procurement from county governments. This is where the problem is.
Thank you.
Finally, Speaker, this constitution, Article 204(2), speaks about marginalized areas. I can read. The national government shall use the equalization fund only to provide basic services, including blah, 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 to marginalized areas. Where does this constitution speak about marginalized counties? I want to ask members. So when you come with the idea, when you bastardize the second policy, where do you get your strength from? Because the constitution speaks about marginalized areas.
Not counties.
Not counties.
Thank you, the Honorable Lomoa Mbadi. Please, 1 minute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mine are two. Number one, check table number 3 and table number 4. On table number 3, it means Turkana County has never received the 148.5 million since 2018. And now, in this other disbursement of maybe 2022-2023, you are saying we are 93% disbursed. So the question is, how can we be able to recover the 148.5 million? Number 2, as a disbursement. Number 2, I need you to confirm if you have been able to receive projects for FY 2026-2027, the current disbursement, if you have been able to receive. If yes, I want to tell you in this house that there was no public participation.
Thank you, the Honorable Pukose. 1 minute.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, CS. CS, the biggest problem about this equalization fund is that when the budget committee tabled here, this equalization fund will be rejected by the House. And therefore, I think you need to be aware as to why you are here, because the committee was going to vote to reject this. The second point on my 1 minute is that NDBS, which is part of the transfer for where you've indicated 0, the project is actually almost 50% done. It's a hospital at a place called Nawiyapong. So where you say that in some of those places the projects have not been done,
the data,
it is not true.
The veracity of the data,
the data that he presented.
Yes, the data in your answer, let that be confirmed. That is 1 minute. The Honorable Lakakeny.
Mr. Speaker, I really appreciate the answers of the minister because he seems to be on the same side as the House. And therefore, there is one thing that the minister could do because he has said he can do it. The regulations can come to us now because there are some things which the judgment did not rule out, did not say you cannot do. For instance, if you give money to the counties and they did not pay their own contractors, who will be liable in the end? Those should be in the regulations, and I want to urge you, together with what Honorable McLap has just said, are the quick actions that you can actually take to save this thing.
Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The issue is structural at the time, at the point of implementation of the project. Honorable member said, who is the procurement agent? That is where the problem. Then the next one, who is the signatory to the account? You remember in CDF, you actually have the community as signatory. If you build a classroom, in the head teacher and a member of the committee are signatories, so that the fund manager alone cannot. So I think it's simply at that point, who is the procurement agent and who is the signatory at that point? Involve the committee in that. It may help at this point.
Mr. Speaker, you realize that there is a problem with the interpretation of Article 204. And because of that confusion, we are unable to use these funds which has constitutional timelines. I want to suggest, Mr. Speaker, to the minister, now that we have a minister, don't say expert in court. Indeed, he's an expert. He's one of the best ministers, finance ministers this country has had since independence. So don't use in court. Expert, really. I want to suggest to the members, because of this, and I am a very, very concerned Kenyan and legislator because I was part of the history, I want to suggest that we form a select committee that will address all the issues surrounding the equalization fund, both taking notes from those architects of the current constitution, look at all the court challenges, look at the demands of the Council of Governors, look at what the Commission on Revenue Allocation has done in the first policy, the second policy, all these issues we have raised. I want to beseech you, Mr. Speaker, and I know we have not allowed, you realize, since 2013, this House has not allowed a select committee. So I will be proposing names for the formation of a select committee to address all issues pertaining to the equalization fund, so that once and for all, we address these before the end of its constitutional term.
Thank you,
and one of the members will be the Honorable Kamket.
Order.
So you'll see the list,
Order.
inshallah.
The Honorable Kenan, you know, you are a member of this House of long standing. You know what you need to do if you do a select committee. Yes, I would have been happy to listen to you if there was and in this House, we've had, you are wrong to say that you don't had, we've had select committees here, even in this term of parliament, to deal with constitutional amendments and all that. The Honorable CS, no, this has to come to an end.
Thank you.
Honorable CS, take your seat for a minute.
Thank you, Ms.
Honorable CS, take your seat for a minute. Lord Chucks, you had a chance. So let me give it to the Honorable Sunkuya. Please make it a minute. Make it a minute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Before the Constitution, in 2013 to 2022, for the last 10 years, the CSS was not appearing before this House. But the laws were changed, the act, so that the CSS can appear before the House. It is also prudent for this House to change this law for the equalization fund, so that the procurement, the accounting, and all those things of the equalization should be done in the national, at the national government.
Thank you,
because
Honorable.
this is a cash cow for the governors, and they are not even using their resources. They are now depending on equalization fund.
This point is very well
These
made.
guys should be actually make sure that they are not touching this
This
money.
point is well made. Thank you. The Honorable Akuja.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question goes to the CS that is there a provision in the law that caps the minimum and the maximum money allocated for particular projects? Because what we are seeing in counties, we are seeing projects of 2 million, 1.5 million. When the equalization fund is supposed to levelize counties that were marginalized with these other counties that went ahead because of sessional paper 65. And this particular money is supposed to do flagship projects, at least projects of 20 million and above. So that's why I'm asking if there's a capping of how much, what is the minimum and the maximum.
Thank you. The Honorable CS, now you can respond to this. And I can assure you these are the last ones on this matter.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to be brief because I can see time has really gone. Now, Honorable Makilab, this fund is actually lapsing in 2031, but you have asked that the county, you have not asked, actually you have stated that the county, the CEC members and the governors are saying that there is no administrative component of the fund. But this was deliberate, because if you allowed, again, this fund to be used for administration purposes, then it would lose its meaning, which, of course, we are already crying that the fund is insufficient. And if you allowed, again, part of it to go to administration, yet those who are implementing this fund, already there's enough money for administrative expenses. I think we are also developing bad habit as a country, where every project, every money that comes around, we want to set aside some part of it as administration. I think it is really wrong. We should learn to think about the impact of these resources to the public as opposed to how much allowances we get. So that's what I wanted to say, that was deliberate. Honorable Kamket has talked about procurement fraud. I agree, there are a lot of challenges that we are seeing. And theft is theft, by the way, whether it is on equalization fund, general funds for devolution, NGCDF, or whichever. But it depends on where there is more malpractices. And we see it where this fund is used to account for other and other allocations elsewhere. So the fraud, we have institutions that deal with that, and I believe they are competent enough. On the Constitution defining marginalized areas, it depends on your interpretation of the Constitution. But Speaker, allow me again to say something about this topic. Sometimes the law is not as clear as lawyers would say. As a matter of fact, if you want to know what was originally intended, you may need a conversation by people who are participating in the crafting and drafting these laws. And I know for a fact that equalization fund was not meant for the whole country. And it was not meant for pockets of marginalization in various counties. It was not. Even though the word that was used there was areas, and this has been exploited, but we had an idea of counties or areas that were marginalized. Let me use the word areas. And probably, Honorable Kamket, if the first policy left Baringo out, probably it was a mistake. But that does not mean that now we bring every other county, we bring Migori, we bring Homa Bay, we bring everybody, and say that even in Homa Bay there are some pockets of marginalization or whichever. I still believe, and I still stand very strongly behind the thinking that we should confine this fund to certain specific areas of this country, so that we can realize impact. We are not realizing any serious impact with this fund. I think there was a question on table 3 and 4, proposal note. As a matter of fact, it was the 2026-27 proposals have not been received. So that is that is the clarity that I wanted to give. Honorable Kose, we may need to look at the accuracy of the data. Yes, there could be inaccuracies if at all the county has implemented some projects and it is reported as zero, I think that is a serious omission that I will look together with my team. On regulations to be revised, Honorable Sunkuli, I agree with you. We may need to look at these regulations and possibly revise them. And probably I would agree with Kainan that we may need to have a team to just really look at this equalization fund and see how best it can have impact, so that we can discuss all these issues, whether there are certain areas in Kajiado which are also marginalized, or Kajiado is not to be considered as a marginalized area. The only problem that I see is we are a bicameral parliament. And sometimes decisions that the two houses make is not informed by what is in the best interest of the public, but rather each house flexing muscle. I don't know whether any suggestion that comes from this house in terms of changing the architecture and the structure of the fund will find favor with the other house. I am not trying to cast aspersions on the other house. I know it is competent enough, but at times you will find that their thinking is completely at variance with what the National Assembly is thinking.
As it should be, because they were set up for different reasons.
Exactly.
Yes.
But again, it is expected that what guides is the interest of the public whom we serve, because we serve the same constituency anyway. There is no constituency which does not belong to a county. All constituencies are domiciled in counties. So that takes me to talk about the interpretation of Article 204. I think I've responded to that. In terms of procuring, it is difficult to separate procurement and implementation of projects. So we need to be very clear on that. But signatory to the accounts as at now is the same county government officials, because the money is being utilized at the county level. There is a special purpose.
Order. The Honorable Wanjala, you can't walk in here walking like, and then you want to disrupt the CS. Order. Sit down. Order. The Honorable CS, this is a ranking member.
Yeah.
I would like you to take a seat and listen to him for a minute. And it better be something serious. Go ahead, Honorable Wanjala.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm one of those people who advocated for this money and to be put even in the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. And Budalangi is one of the beneficiaries, Honorable Speaker. But for the last 14 years since this money came, it goes through the county government. And we have never seen this money to date. Honorable Speaker, we are talking, and we are supposed to be getting 5 million every year, which we have been getting. For the last 14 years, we have not seen this money in Budalangi.
Thank you so much. What you said is appreciated. It is what all members have talked about. If you were here earlier, you'd have noted that every member has raised the same concern you've raised, and the CS has taken his time to respond to them. In case, because you came late, in case you don't get the answer you required, you can walk out with him as he goes to you can get a face-to-face clarification. Honorable CS, proceed to conclude.
Yeah, thank you. Two things. When you see our report talking about zero absorption, it doesn't mean the project has not been implemented. It means payment has not been made. So probably the money is in the fund, the special CPA, that is special purpose account, but has not been disbursed. So that's a correction. Now on Honorable Wanjala's concern, and Honorable Wanjala is my friend, you know, he's a ranking member of this house. I agree with him that Budalangi has been included, but in the second formula, and which we started implementing the projects from last financial year. So this is the second financial year. We will check after this why the projects that were meant to benefit Budalangi have not been implemented. So in the House, Mr. Speaker, with the CEO of the Equalization Fund is listening. So we will make sure that we follow through to see what is happening with Budalangi, even as the MP for Funyula is distracting. The MP for Funyula likes invading people's territory. So, but thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, CS. I can assure you, I can assure you, Mr. CS, this House appreciates your time and the time you prepare to answer your questions. And this House, order. This House requests you, because I've heard you being called expert, to tell your colleagues to take their work as seriously as you do. Because we want that when the ministers come to this House, they're comprehensive, they take members of Parliament's questions seriously, so that this country can move together, knowing that we have a cabinet that knows what it's supposed to do for the country. You are discharged. Those who want to offer the CST at our restaurant can follow him. For now, he's discharged. There's nothing out of order. Oundo, what is the problem?
Speaker, this is a House of Records and has appeared on Hansard. The Cabinet Secretary has alleged that I like invading people's territory. I want to put it on record. I do not invade anybody's territory. I'm a Kenyan who is allowed to go any part of this country